What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of
Ball Status.
That's right, guys. This is the podcast where we talk about the business of health and the health of business. And today we have a dad cast. That's right. This is the Cuck's Dream podcast. You've always wanted to talk about dad stuff.
Exactly.
So we're going to talk about dad stuff today. I don't know where this is going to go. Creepy Uncle Carl is in charge today. So
All right, let's do this.
it's going to get interesting. But before we start, thank you, American Energy, for the sponsorship. Let's get in there. Oh, yeah. Going with that Daytona Beach
Dude,
today.
mine was overflowed. That's crazy.
Do them boom, boom.
Just wanted to
How's
get
that
out.
happen?
Do them
Probably
boom,
squeezed.
boom. Oh yeah.
Actually pretty good.
Do them boom.
All right, Carl.
All right. Good choice, David. That's good.
What did you get? What did he go with?
Patriot Punch.
Oh, nice.
Hey, man.
All right, so what the heck are we talking about today, Carl?
So basically,
Set the groundwork.
we talk about offline. What do we want to talk about on the next podcast? And the scenario that's being played out in our country right now hit home with being fathers. You know, we got a new father here at the end. We've got a girl father over here. We've got rambunctious kids father over here. And then we've got my son who's 22. And so
It is a good mixture here.
yeah, you know, and so it's like, what is the perspectives that we have about being fathers now? And we can see that from different perspectives because our kids are different ages, but also because of the fact that we're always getting older, but our team seems to always be the same age or getting younger. You know, so how do we view the industry from a dad's perspective now, not just being a CEO or, you know, a VP or a GM or something like that. So that's kind of the basis.
Well, the basis, so can I, to help me prepare and for the listeners, you mentioned the scenario that our country's in. So can you set a basis
Yeah.
for like...
He started going down that route, and I was like, oh, we just got canceled.
Well, we don't need to get crazy in
20
the rabbit
minutes
hole,
into
but
that.
Here we go.
I want us to all to understand what you mean by that, and so that way we can speak
So
to that.
basically, you got you know, good times create weak men, and weak men create or good times. What is it?
You're close. Good times create weak men.
Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create, you know, weak times. And it's just a cycle that it just
ever heard
keeps
that?
on going.
I have,
Yeah.
but we need to slow that down. Let's do it one more time so
All
that
right,
people
so,
home.
Do you
so
have it looked
strong
up? Hold
men
on. Let's make
create
sure we get
good
it.
times. Good times create weak men, comfortable men. So comfortable weak men create hard times, and then hard times create strong men. And then the cycle starts over again. And so where we're at right now,
Where are we right now?
we are in weak times.
So hard
Weak men.
times.
Weak men, and we're getting into hard times. And, you know, some of us will say, hey, we're going to be out of this. I mean, here we have elections tomorrow, and but I'm a little on the side of where this is kind of just getting started. You know, that this isn't going to be magically wiped away just because of an election. And so it's you start to look at yourself and you reflect on how you're living your own life, especially with me, with my son being 22. He's no longer a boy. And I've always said this, that your kids are always going to be adults a lot longer in life if everything turns out great, right? Than they are going to be children, kids. And so, you know, while you do want
you
to,
still a kid, Carl.
yeah, always. So while while you want to live in that moment and you want to cherish that moment, you still have to recognize that it starts early on. And I feel, from what I know about history, that kids were brought up to be way more cultured and way more educated, way more diverse in skill sets than our kids nowadays. And so we experienced that. And I was talking with Dave that, you know, we experience that now because of the crop that we have been hiring for the past 10 years of young people, and the lack of creativity, the lack of taking ownership, the sensitivity. You know, we've literally had managers, or a manager, should I say, cry because they didn't like the way we responded to them organizing the store. And it was like a huge ordeal for that person, you know, and that's an isolated event. But I mean, overall, it's the sensitivity aspect of young men and women. It's the lack of creativity, and you guys can have your own perspective there. And And so it's like so you start to look at your son, your daughter, and what am I learning now by interacting with these young adults to make sure that I'm setting my child up for success? And then my perspective is different because my son's 22 and your son's 2. So,
Months.
Not even.
not that young, but he's
What happened in the last year and a half?
4 months on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It does fly by.
He's tiny. He's a little guy.
Yeah.
The cutest little tubs.
All right, so kick us off. What is your first question?
All right. So we were spitballing.
I think we got some good ones.
But yeah, I think we got some. So how has your perspective on fatherhood changed once you became a father?
Well, I could say that I didn't have a perspective on fatherhood whatsoever. It's just, I don't think you truly can until you have a kid.
Well, we all have a father.
We all have a father, right? And, I had a great father. We have a good relationship. There was no trauma in my childhood. It was kind of more of a Leave It to Beaver type family.
I'm jealous.
No
trauma?
I mean, it was kind of vanilla, which is a good thing, right? There was a solid family unit. So like I wasn't, to me, because I had a good father, it was kind of, I didn't think about it. I think you think about it more when you have a traumatic childhood, right? Like you're thinking about, so like when I was going into being a father, I didn't really have a perspective. Like I didn't know what to expect. But I'll tell you what, we've talked about it on, I don't know if it was this podcast or Ask the Boss or something else, but like we've talked about it before. My life was flipped upside down with a kid. Like just every aspect of it, like just little things. Like I was such and I hate using this term because it comes off as so negative, but I was such a selfish person, right? Like I was only concerned with my goals whatsoever, right? Even being married, like it was still, my goals, which kind of became her goals, right, as well. But it was still, I lived a very selfish lifestyle. So it's like having somebody in your life or kids in your life where you would not for a second think about trading your life for theirs, like and even as a wife, right? Like even your spouse, it's still a different relationship, right? Like every relationship's different. I mean, in ranking of the order, it should be, God, your wife, and your kids. But it's hard because that kid for me, it was such a special thing, right? And so sometimes you forget that when you're in the heat of raising your kids, that you should put your spouse first above your kids. But I know it changed my life like crazy. Like I would see a school shooting and just start crying. Like that's weird. That's super weird. Like when I didn't have kids and I was just concerned about my bubble, like those types of things, like I was like, man, that sucks. And I would move on because it didn't impact me. So now when there was things like a school shooting or some other tragedy, I would be impacted way more because I then was viewing my kids in that school. And it was just very weird for me. It was great for me because I was so driven and so, again, the word selfish is, I don't know if that is the right word, but maybe focused would be the right word. It really helped me gain perspective on things that were more important. So, I mean, it was life-changing for me. I mean, it still is life-changing for me.
I spent the weekend with Doug's boys, and they are. I won't say a handful, but they are just wild. Yeah.
They're boys.
They're boys.
Yeah.
Let them be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem is a lot of people these days don't let their boys be boys. Right. Like we will let them wrestle to a point and it becomes violent. Like where there's hate in their eyes, but we totally give them space to actually wrestle.
Yeah. We were all wrestling in the back seat. I even got in trouble this past weekend.
Yeah. I'm like, Carl, just
You get smacked.
No, I had to sit in between them. And so I booty bumped
Griffin and bashed his head or something.
Door. I looked over. I was like, dude, it wasn't on purpose, And he turned around, and he hit me.
Well, that's the fine line of parenting, and especially with rambunctious boys, is like because you don't want them to get hurt, but it's like you got to let them make their own mistakes. You got to have some type of boundaries where they don't do stupid things where they really hurt themselves, but you got to let them make their own mistakes. So
Some lessons come in being hurt, though.
yeah.
It's not like you wish that they get hurt.
No, but like I'm talking tragic. Like, don't let them. They shouldn't be playing straight in the middle of the road while the cars are, like throwing a football across the road as cars are coming is probably not the smartest thing.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, my perspective, it's kind of like what Doug said. You don't really have one until you become a dad. I never wanted a kid. So, I mean, I get a little jealous of you guys sometimes because it's like, I feel like you guys have the perfect, I wouldn't say perfect life, but like perfect situation, very opposite to mine. Me and my child's mother are not together. So it's definitely a different view. I never thought I would be like a single dad. But I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I did notice, I haven't competed in 6 years. My daughter's 6. So you do become less selfish.
I wonder what the correlation there. I haven't competed. My last competition, Jackson was 6 months old, and then that's done.
It's because like the focus does go off yourself. Like at least in bodybuilding and competing, it's like it's you. It's all you. And then it's like you're not the main part of your story anymore. Like that story kind of changes, and that's like your kid. Like they're the focal point. I'm not the focal point anymore. So at least to me, it showed me that there's more to life than me. So that's more my perspective now. Like I would do anything I possibly can for her.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I would trade all like the world championships, all those victories for my kid to do that any day, right? Yeah. Like anything, even success in business. Like I would much rather have my kids be there.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Perspective changed. I do think so I've been preparing for this for a while. I feel, Samantha and I, 4 years together, and like we knew we were going to have children. And so like I knew that was coming. So I think maybe during the buildup of all that, maybe not directly like I'm studying and I'm writing these things down, but you start to think about your father, how you grew up, and then things that I had a nuclear family. Dad was amazing. He taught me a ton of stuff. I even feel like that's reflected a lot in my life when I have some skills that some people my age might not have, and that's just because he made me do projects with him all the time, and I hated it at the time. But so I'm super thankful for all that he did. But I do recognize those moments that you're going through as a adolescent, a teenager mostly, and then when you get yourself in trouble and you have those conversations or how that was handled by your parents, that maybe I would have chosen a different path or like a different conversation or a different discipline, or maybe I would have just approached, like there was multiple times where like, I was caught red-handed with something, but my parents chose to avoid it. And so I think what you say earlier about your child lives longer as an adult than they do as a child. So Samantha and I talked about this last night, having conversations with your children as an adult, even as a child, right? Speaking to them as an adult and having a conversation that's back and forth, that's not yelling at them. So you made this decision. Okay, what led you to that decision? Okay, and do you feel that is a right decision, or what you learn from whatever the feedback they're giving you? I feel like my perspective hasn't changed, but I feel like I've learned a lot from thinking about how I was raised, some of the decisions my parents made, and then maybe the way that I would do it, as a father. Yeah. So, it's going to be fun. We're just getting started.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally different. Like our 5-year-old and our 8-year-old are just completely different personalities. But it also sometimes we forget Jackson's a rule follower and Griffin is not. There's no other way to say. I wouldn't say he's not he's just stubborn. He's kind of like me in a lot of ways. He has his own strong personality, right? So like he doesn't like to be controlled, and he's a little bit stubborn. Yeah. So it's hard because I'll have a conversation with Jackson and it'll go like, you're talking to an adult. Like, do you understand that was wrong? You understand you can't do that again? Like, do you understand that you need to come to me when there's a problem? And even if you were wrong and you shouldn't have done that, I won't get mad at you as long as you tell me the truth. Like you need to, Griffin, it's like a whole other, we're just not there yet. But sometimes we take with the older sibling, we try to impose, sometimes we forget Griffin literally is just 5. And the kid is doing things that like, an 8-year-old are doing, right? Like he watched Avengers when he was young, which we never let Jackson watch, right? Like maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's why he's such a badass. But he's also like, he's wakeboarding at 5 when like that's something maybe an 8-year-old would normally do, right? Like he's trying to keep up with his older brother all the time. But sometimes we forget he really has just the mental development of a 5-year-old. So it's a lot harder to manage that, you know, the expectations there. We're way harder on Griffin, I think, only because we expect him kind of to be an 8-year-old, but he's only 5, and it's hard to forget that.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Brady Bunch era, and my last name being Frady, everybody called us the Brady Bunch. We had dinner every night at 5:00. My dad came to every game. My dad did wrestling in high school, didn't care about any other sport, but he was at every game I ever did. He was with me in the Boy Scouts, and you know he worked on homework with me every night, and I mean everything was there. But my mother and my father got divorced my senior year in high school, and my dad's motto growing up is, "I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your father." And so that was my perspective. But once I had Carl, and also once I went through that phase of their divorce and how I took it and how I dealt with it, and the fact that my dad kind of checked out of my life at that point. My perspective changed with Carl is that, yeah, I'm here to be your father, but I'm one of the people in this world that is not here to manipulate you, right? You're going to find, and I say this to all my management team because I just never want to be that person that's manipulative, right? I want to be not controlling. You make your own decisions. I'm here for guidance. And so with Carl, it's I wanted him to always talk to me, always know that, hey, we're going to be here. As long as I'm alive, you're in my life. And as long as you're alive, I'm in your life. I'm always going to be your dad until the day I die, because I'm always going to be this much older than you, and I have this much more perspective than you, and I'm not here to manipulate you. So it's not that I'm just here to be your father, but I'm also here to be your friend. And that's how my relationship with Carl changed. And it was, you know, right now it's you don't know. That's the hard part about parenting. You don't know if you're doing it right and doing it wrong, because they're still going through their stages, right? You know, and so right now everything's working out great, you know. But that's how I'd say my perspective.
Well, let's talk about that, and maybe we can get in, because there was a period of time when you and him were not on great.
Yep.
So what happened? Because you guys were so close for so long, and then it was like a light switch. At what age and what happened that he kind of got pissed at you for a couple years?
Oh yeah, it's so funny how it happened. So Carl's mother and I.
I'm just preparing.
Got divorced when Carl was very young, and so I had Carl essentially 50% of the time. And
that's where you are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was there for all the soccer games. I was there for, you know, field trips, any kind of activity inside the school where we decorate the doors for each month theme and read books and all that kind of stuff. So I was always there. And so basically the teenage years started coming around, and I won't say it's the same exact age, but when I was younger, my job was to take out the trash. And so one day in the kitchen, my dad goes, "The trash needs to be taken out." I said, "Well, why is it my job? Why can't the last person who put the trash on the top recognize the trash need to be taken out and they do it? Why do we got to wait for Carl to come around?" Oh, that set my dad off. He started pushing me up the stairs and yelling at me, and I said, "Screw this," and I pushed him to the side. I ran out the front door. I looked at my back. He was right on my tail, and I'm just hauling ass down the street, and he eventually gave up. I left, and I was gone for, gosh, this was like 5 o'clock at night, and I didn't come home until like midnight. And I went over to my best friend's house.
How old were you?
This was teenager. This is basically in 91, 92.
So you're right? Like 14 or something.
Yeah, you know, and also my job, and this because it happened right when he came home from the commissary, was to fold all the bags, right? Why do I got to fold the bags? Why do I got to take the trash out, right? So eventually I came home. I came in the house. She goes, "I'm glad you're okay." And I just went to bed, and everything was fine, you know. And so I'm dieting for a show. Amy's dieting for a show. And so this would have been in 2015. Carl's 15 years old. And I had been writing him about preparing to be an adult. You know, you need to learn how to cook. You know, ramen noodles is not cooking. So I said, you need to research on a casserole. And then you're going to make that casserole for
This is such a good story.
Amy, myself, and Landon. And so a couple weeks goes by, and I was like, hey, how's the casserole going? What do we need to go buy? And so we're driving home from school, and he goes, I don't know. And I kind of like get the dad voice laying into him a little bit. I've never had to spank Carl. I like raise the dad voice, and he gets it, right? And so he gets all shut down, pouty, whatever. And we get home, we get out of the car. He puts his backpack on, and he goes sits at the curb of the house. And I'm like, whatever, blow off some steam. I'm going inside. Next thing you know, Amy comes inside and he goes, what's going on? Why'd Carl leave with his mom? And I was like, are you f***ing kidding me? And yeah, so that was the last night that he stayed with me. He never came back to stay the night. And he'd come over for dinners and stuff like that. And so now, when I go to my dad's house or something like that, and I was like, you need to take out that trash, and it's a joke, right? And so now when I see Carl, it's like, am I getting a casserole sometime soon? He'll send me a picture. He actually sent one a couple weeks ago, a picture of a casserole.
Did he make it, or was it like?
That was his. He made it,
Oh, nice.
And so it's funny. It's yeah.
But so how long did it take for him to get over that?
Oh, it was several months before we hung out. We'd call and stuff like that, but it was several months, and I was just like, whatever, Now, and when we talk about it in the past, like, hey, what was going on? He's like, I didn't want to make something you couldn't eat. And I was like, oh, because I was prepping for a show.
It's a lot of pressure.
I was like, why couldn't you communicate that back then? Something he didn't, but it's something so stupid, and it worked out the way that it worked out, but yeah, that was the moment. It was over casserole.
So this is, for all you guys, because I've only been a dad for 4 months. In a moment like that, where a decision's made and it's not received well from your child, so like this is a perfect example, but maybe you guys have an example too. How do you, I guess, let that be, right? Like that decision, that's not what you wanted,
no,
right? But now that you're in the future and looking back on it, you guys can reflect and there's conversation about it. There was something learned from that, whether it took a day, a month, or years, right, for that lesson to be learned. But that's a hard time to go through because he shut you off, So how do you prepare as a dad to kind of like have to be okay with that decision, or even the child's decision, right? Like it was his decision to go.
Yep.
And how do you be okay with that in the moment when maybe you know that there will be a lesson learned someday, but that might take years to come by?
I think the lesson learned is something that both of you have already talked on, and it's that you have to understand that yes, they are kids and we're going to cuddle and play, but at the same time I need to speak to you as an adult. And so same thing if I'm dealing with you, it's hey, well, why? And a simple hey, why?
I think also it's
would have gone a long way.
It's all the other work that you do, and I say work because it is work, but it's just all the other work you do to bond with your kids and develop a safety for them, right? Like so they can feel comfortable with you, and they don't want to lose that, right? So it's just like sometimes Jackson will get pretty upset, and he just will not want to talk. So I've learned, but he really does not like us being mad at him. So he'll go off by himself, and we just let him go, and he'll go to his room. And then we'll come back and we'll talk. And he'll usually start crying at some point because he understands. And he usually knows when he messed up because he'll be mad at himself for messing up. But I think that's just because we have developed a close bond, just throughout. It's not like it's a safe bond. They don't want to have distance between us. Now, this is an 8-year-old, not a 15-year-old. So that might change. It's funny because I've recorded him and I'll do it often. Because he's a snuggle kid. So we literally will snuggle at night. We'd just lay with each other. And I love it. And I'm like, buddy, are you going to do this? And it's funny because we're coming off a football field and a baseball field where he's doing all this manly boy stuff with his boys, right? And then he'll come home and just want to snuggle, which is awesome. And I was like, are you going to want to do this when you're 16? And he will straight up answer me, yes. I love it. I was like, I'm going to record that. So I'll record it. I probably have a couple of recordings of him saying, yes, I'll do it when you're 16. So because I don't know how long that's going to last.
Yeah.
But I think it's all the work that you do outside of those moments so that when there is a moment like that, you guys can have that conversation where he feels safe that he can talk to you. And I think the other big thing is knowing when you f***ed up,
right,
to apologize.
And then tell them that you did.
So it's one of the things that I've apologized to our kids often.
Yeah.
You know, I will get upset at Griff, and you know, like there's been times where like I was at a restaurant, he was acting up, and I'll never forget it was in what's that place? Fresh Chef. And he was acting up and he wouldn't sit down in the seat, and he was just like, he needed a smack. Like he needed to be whipped. But I whipped him and his head went flying into the table, and it was like that. And I just was like, I was like mortified. I forgot he was only like 25 pounds, 30 pounds, right? And I was just completely mortified. And like, it was so loud that it got quiet in the room. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to jail. And so like, you know, he was really pissed. Yeah. Like he was like, that didn't even hurt. You know, like how he is. He's just, it didn't even hurt. And he got really pissed. And he doesn't want anything to do with it. But like, I was able to take him outside and literally apologize to him. I was like, I never meant for that to happen, and explained it to him. I was like, but you need to start acting like a little bit older. You're not a baby anymore. Yeah. And I definitely, he remembers it, because we'll go into that restaurant, and if he acts up, I'll say, do you want your head to get smashed into the table again? And he just kind of gets quiet and just like, and I didn't mean to do it, but like, and he was fine. But, you know, being able to apologize when you mess up is important, because there's a lot of guys, and I know there's a lot of women that do it too, but I mean, like, guys have a lot of pride. So being able to know that you made it, and you're not the man of the house, you know, like a man of the house never makes a mistake. You can't run the house that way.
That correlates into being a leader.
I think showing
as an adult.
I think showing, apologizing to your wife in front of your kids, and the way you treat your wife, you know, is really important as well. Like showing that, no, like they can see us fight, like that's fine as long as it's a cordial fight, right? Like nothing, we don't ever get like really upset at each other in front of the kids. I mean, we have, but like, you know, we try not to. Yeah. But then it's key where apologize, and then we literally will talk to the kids about it. Like, this is why I was upset at Mom. It was my bad, and I shouldn't have done that, so that they can see even when we act like children, that's not the right way to act.
Yeah. I was watching a movie. I can't remember the movie, but it was interesting. We were expecting Ryder. He wasn't here yet, and we were watching this movie, and it was a big father-daughter movie. But the father requested that they do something, and it was in a heat. There was stress going on, and the daughter goes, "Why?" And he just goes, "Because I said so. Let's, move, move." And then so they went through it or whatever. They got through the stress, and then they had a very good relationship, and it was a very much communicative back and forth, like best friend relationship. And he stopped in their path and just said, "Look, I need to apologize to you because that wasn't fair. I should have gave you a reason of why we needed to move, right? Or we needed to do this. And instead I just, told you that my way is the right way and nothing else matters." Yeah. I thought that was it's something that it stuck with me and through a movie, but I don't want to ever even say that. I don't want to say because I said so. No, it's like,
yeah, you don't want to say it, but it happens.
No, I don't believe it.
There's moments, right? There's moments.
Yeah,
but recognize that, right? Like, and say, look, I shouldn't have said that, right? Like, I should have explained to you of the reasoning why we're going to do something. Now, it is my decision, right, that we're going to do this. Yeah. But I should have explained maybe the decision, the reasoning behind it.
Steph is way more patient than I am with Griffin. Like, she understands that, like, fighting him does not work because he's such a stubborn, strong-willed kid that it just doesn't work. So she will, like, get down. Literally, the key is getting down on his level, like, on your knees and talking to him and giving him just a moment to just have his way, just for, like if he wants to show you something, but you don't have time for that, and you want to just let him show you for a second and then explain, like, why you have to go. She's way more calm than I am, and it works way better. I'm just, like, literally, I'll pick the kid up and throw him in the car. And, like, that's always a disaster. Like, it works, but, like, then it takes me a while, and usually that comes with an apology, and it takes a while for him to calm down, where Steph is way more patient and, like, can have that conversation. He's definitely a mama's boy in that sense, whereas Jackson and I are more, we communicate on the same way.
I would definitely say it is easier, I don't know, in those moments, like with the casserole or something like that, like I didn't have a place to go. Carl had another option, and unfortunately, his mother, like, if he'd have done that to me, I'd have been like, no, you're going to your mom's, right? Avoiding her because you don't want to make a f***ing casserole is not the. So with her, you might have to, change the strategy a little bit.
I already deal with that now.
And,
she's mad at me. It's I want to go to mom.
But I can feel with Carl, because we've talked since, is that they are still trying to digest why mommy and daddy are not together. And I've had some good conversations, especially as an adult, like, dude. Because I can't tell him, hey, because he could listen to this one day. I can't say that, hey, your mother wasn't a good wife. Good mother, not a good wife, because that's his mom. Like, I don't want to ever hear something of that about.
But don't
my
you think
mom.
they should know truth?
And that's the hard part with that. Like, okay, so.
Because he's going to know. He's an adult. He's a police officer.
It's a Jerry Springer show with all that.
He's a
really
police
is,
officer.
Because it's the final straw in the coffin is Carl's stepfather. Right? So I can't go and shit on his mom, and I can't go shit on his stepfather, especially his stepfather who passed away. Right? That's a lot for Carl to digest. This man was a part of his life. Whether I like that or not, he was there. Right? He lived under his roof, not mine, And but as they are getting older, and if they are in that nuclear, it's a different situation, in that there should be less confusion in the discipline side of things, whereas in our situation, there was another thing that we had to worry about, right? Well, mommy doesn't, let me, or mommy lets me do that. Well, this is my house, and we're not going to do, and those are the things you have to kind of deal with. And I didn't have to deal with any of that stuff until he became a teenager. And in that one moment, it was gone.
But I mean, I feel like he should know, because so that he doesn't make the same mistakes.
And so I've had conversations like, hey, if you want to know why I left, I will tell you everything, right? Just know that it wasn't you, and just know that when the time comes, what my final straw is that my son is going to grow up and be a man. And do you teach your son to roll over and get kicked over and over and over again? And this is what marriage is, and this is what life is. Or do you put your foot down and you say enough is enough? And again, not that I'm innocent in the first marriage. I've owned my mistakes, and I've told him literally what I did wrong in that scenario. But it's again, that goes back to they're going to be an adult a lot longer in life, and how are you equipping them? And that's great that what you touched on is that part of being a fatherhood is also showing them, whether it's your daughter or your son, what is a man. What is a husband and what is a father? It's not just one role that you're showing your son or your daughter, So, but that's a Jerry Springer show.
Well,
Another podcast.
That's one of the other questions that you circulated about this was, kind of related to that. It says, with your line of work, with events and traveling, do you have a fear of missing out? Mm-hmm. And I think the answer is yes. But I'm at there's so many opportunities to also be present when I'm not traveling, but they also need, the flip side of that is you also have to show them a work ethic. Like I can honestly say I would much rather be at his baseball game than traveling for these events. As fun as the events appear on the outside, and really are, they are really, I really enjoy doing events for the brands and traveling and speaking about something I'm very passionate about. Like I really love my work, and I wouldn't want it any other way. And we have a great time when we travel, but like it's not even close. Like I would so much rather be at home going to the baseball games or whatever it is, whatever they're doing. So I think there's a part of there is showing that it's not just being at the baseball games, right? It's not just being present there, but it's your other responsibilities to your family.
It's a balance, dichotomy.
Right? Yeah. So it's just like showing that, no, I have to work. It's like Jackson, he hates when I leave. Like he'll know. It's like, he'll literally ask, when am I coming back? And both boys will say, when's daddy coming home? When's daddy coming? Which is great. Like I'm glad that they miss me, right? And when I come home from work, they're excited to see me, which is great. But they need to know that like there's responsibilities that sometimes you don't get to do what you want to do. And so like I try to tell them, it's just like, I try to tell them, and it's really hard. It's like, listen, it's not normal. It's don't expect that you, when you get older, you're going to have a house on the lake, right? Like I try to teach, it's a fine line. It's like, you want to spoil them because you can. But this thing is like, you have to explain to them, it's like, you have to show them why you can have nice things, why you get to play on a boat, right? Like, and have fun. That's not normal, right? Like, there's a very small percentage of people that can do that. And you have to teach them that, no, that comes from when I'm gone for a week and you don't get to see me, that's because I'm working, so that when we are together, there are cool things, right? And so, like, there's, like you said, you have to show them how to, by example. You can't just speak it.
When it comes time to spending time, whether it's with your wife or your kids, it's all about them in that moment. This is the biggest culprit that sucks all that away. It's like that phone has to go away. I'm on a date or I'm spending time with my son. It's like that is gone. That does not exist. Because the flip side of that, when I went through divorce counseling, they talked about this roughly the 7 year, the 1 year when you really start to get to know your spouse. You get a divorce, some things start to sink in, and you're not ready for it. You're not mature enough. The 7 year itch, and then the 20 years, basically when the kids leave and mom and dad are strangers to each other, and that's essentially what happened in my home with my mom and my dad, and then it goes back to your kids are adults much longer in life than they are kids. What are they seeing? Well, great. Well, I just spent 20 years of my life with somebody. And then you got divorced. Like, why do I want to get married? Why do I want to fall in love? And so then you have issues with trusting people and so on and so forth, which is a big aspect for me. But at the same time, I also see, through family, the people that it's all about their kids. And then when their kids leave, they have no life whatsoever. Right?
Well, that I have a question. That kind of segues into my question. But before I ask this question, Steve Calabrese called me during this. I said, hey, can I call you back? I'm on a podcast. He said, can you stop the podcast production and call me? I need your input on what I should mix into my oatmeal today, egg or whey protein. And that is why we love Steve.
That's hilarious. Because the funny thing is, you're not quite sure if he's serious or kidding.
Yeah, there was no like, exclamation points. There was none of that.
That's right.
So my question actually is more for Doug, I think, on this one, because you two have been through divorces. So this is more, I guess, towards a wife. But you guys can I'm not trying to single you guys out.
No, of course.
So right now, my struggles with traveling aren't so much towards Ryder. I mean, Ryder's 4 months old.
Right.
My struggles are towards Samantha and the home, because I feel, and she's a boss mom, right? Like she crushes. We're blessed to have a great nanny right now. And so we're in a good spot, but I still carry the weight that I'm leaving and putting all this responsibility on just her. And I sometimes, like, after a long stretch of travel, I could tell she's tired, and she just wants a bath. Like, she wanted a bath last night or Saturday, and she couldn't. She drew the water, got in, and like, I'm trying to do all I can, but I don't have a boob. And like, he was not cool with me. And so I'm trying to just distract him. And she comes downstairs frustrated, and I'm so like, I'm sorry. And she's like, it just is what it is. So I feel the weight when I travel for my wife.
Bro, it doesn't change. Yeah. It doesn't change when it gets old. I mean, like I told you, so this past week we were in Vegas, and literally I'm sitting in a cigar bar, like smoking a cigar, having a good time with my guys.
Yeah.
Right? Which is part of it. And she understands, which is really good. She's not like...
And Sam does too.
She understands that's part of creating the culture, which then creates the good relationships here, which make you guys do a better job. And it's just part of what we do. But I'm sitting here enjoying a cigar, which is really hard to do. She's texting me, literally. They didn't install the monitor of the propane. We have a 500-gallon propane tank buried in our front yard that heats the house and everything, the water and it went out. It was empty. And apparently there wasn't a sensor put on. So like, she didn't have any water in the house. She's got to get both kids a bath because they take a bath every night. And like, I can see the stress. I'm trying to find like the account number and who to call or whatever. And like, it's a new house. So it's just like, I don't really have all that at my fingertips. And so like, I'm trying to figure that out. Right. And then on top of that, then she goes to urgent care because Jackson has the flu. He's really bad. Like when he's sick, like you could tell he was super sick. Brought him to urgent care. I'm getting a picture. He's literally vomiting in a bag, looks white as a ghost. So she's got Griffin with her, which is not patient, at 7 o'clock at night where he should be going to bed. And Jackson's throwing up and pale as a ghost. They try to put a mask on him. She's got 2 masks on. They try to put a mask on him. And as soon as they put a mask on him, he like passed out. Like, And Steph was like, this is not okay. This is not right. Like something's wrong. You need to do something. And so then finally he kind of like, he doesn't even remember it. He kind of like woke up and threw up. So like then he didn't have to wear a mask after that. So, but all of this is going on and I'm living it real time as I'm like smoking a cigar, you know, in the cigar. So bro, it doesn't change. And you know, that's hard because the joke is like whenever I go out of town, shit hits the fan. Yeah. Like if something goes wrong where it's usually like I should be there to fix it and I'm not.
Yeah.
But she's a boss mom and she makes it happen.
Right.
But it does. Then when you get home, it's a little bit like she just literally wants to be like, I'm out, I'm gone. So like Saturday morning, you know, I took the red eye home. Friday we were there. Saturday morning, Carl and I had the kids but all she wanted to do was go to the gym and then she went grocery shopping, like without the kids.
Right.
Like she went to Walmart and stuff, so she had 5 hours of time, but it was like she worked out and went to the grocery store, but like that was, and then she had the kids for the whole afternoon for the Mooresville event. Yeah. So it's just like, it's hard. It's just like, you just have to be on the same page. And I think it's the little things. I know I can definitely do better about it because I'm single-minded in a lot of things. Like I got goals, I'm going to accomplish them. Right. So I have to pause and be like, well, she just went through hell. Right. Like, so maybe just take the kids for a day, right? Like just those one, and it doesn't take a lot. It's not like you have to be with them. Like you have to take over the responsibility of a mother for a week at a time. Just the little things like, just an afternoon or a day, small, taking a bath, like being able to do that goes a long way in making that okay. But that doesn't stop, you know, that'll always be because you're going to be traveling more than her. So
that's just such a tough one. I mean, Amy and I talked about that. And because she knew at that point when we were in the beginning of our marriage where I was at with the career and what it entailed, at least what we thought it entailed at that point, she was like, I'm not a stay-at-home mom, you know? And that was just something that was really tough because it was very refreshing to listen. I posted the other day, Andy talking about, instead of talking about sacrifices, it's an investment, right? And you're investing into their future or you're investing into yours or you're investing into hers or both ears, you know, and it's like there's no perfect answer to that. You know, it is that continuous juggle, you know, of what you're doing. You know, it's such a tough situation to be in.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think no matter what the circumstance is, as long as you're doing the small things, you're communicating the right way, you're being open and honest. Like if I'm away and it's shit, just tell me that it's shit, you know, like give me all of it. Right. And then like, I'll know.
But I can see you being like me because literally she said, remember when I stepped out and took that call at the cigar bar? She's like, listen, I'm just telling you this. I don't need you to fix it because I'm immediately like, hey, listen, I will email this. I'll call. And just like, hey, do you want me to call coach or something that he said? I don't need you to fix this. I just want to talk to you about what's going on. And I'm immediately, she's like, stop trying to fix it. I was like, well, then why are you telling me?
Right.
Like, stop telling me because you're stressing me out.
That's exactly where a man's head goes. It's like, all right, how do I fix it?
Right. Last night.
Problem. All right, I got a solution.
After she couldn't take the bath, she comes downstairs, and I'm preparing dinner. I'm doing all that I can in the kitchen. Yeah. All right, so now I don't have riders. Okay. And she just goes, I'm really struggling. And she's bopping. I'm really struggling. I'm like, I know, babe. And I just want to I want to fix. I don't know, but I just don't have boobs and like I just don't know what to do. And she's like, I know. I'm just really struggling. I'm like, yep. And I'm cooking dinner.
Yep.
But I will say this, and you can attest to it, is just still enjoy it because it just doesn't last.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Carl is 22-year-old police officer. It's like, where did it go? It's like hanging out with the boys yesterday was so much fun. You know, being at the ball game. Not in a creepy way, but just watching the kids play.
The funny thing is that I was like, and this is creepy Uncle Carl.
So like his like all
parents? Yeah, all the friends' parents
creepy
hanging out
Uncle
there.
Carl.
I was like, this is
right,
creepy Uncle Carl. I was like, that's how he gets introduced because he's the creepy uncle. And so they're like, so who is he? Your brother or? Well, we're like, well, he's not really the uncle, like, but he's just like family uncle, you know, like a non-family uncle. He's just creepy Uncle Carl, and they're like, oh, okay.
You know, I'm watching Griff and Jackson go at it in the back seat, and just I remember doing that with my sister, and then I'm watching the kids like just they're running around and sliding in mud, and like everybody's just having a great time. It's like, where did it go?
Yeah.
You know, where did it go? I can't wait to be a grandparent. You know. So
you touched on it a little bit ago where you said just be in the moment. Yeah. I've always said this, and it sounds really morbid, but at least what I noticed is like with my friends that have kids, I treat every night like it's the last night you got with them. Because I think too many people are it's like, get to bed. but it's like, just enjoy those like little moments.
Yeah.
Like when my daughter gets like slap happy, it's hilarious. It's my favorite moments.
Slap happy?
Oh my God.
Like
Well,
she wants to slap you?
No, she like gets like so tired that she's just like
wound up.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like goofy. And,
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's like one thing that ends up happening with a lot of people. They're just like, you want your own time, right? Like, you know, Sam's eventually going to be like, okay, they're in bed, I get my own time.
Right.
But, you know, everybody wants their own time so much, but like my time to me is open to close daughter when I have her.
Yeah.
So I think too many people check out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, because we have them every night, so I'm just like, would you go to bed? Like, which is so good because right now I can tell Jackson, listen, it's late. You just played baseball till 8 o'clock. It's already past your bedtime. You need to go up and get a shower, brush your teeth, and go to bed. And it's amazing that he can go upstairs, brush his teeth, and go to bed. It's the greatest thing in the world. It's like the little wins. Like now, if I can just get Griff to that point, we'll be amazing. He'll be like 16, and I'll still be up there forcing him into bed.
Or he'll just be like in the shower and you can hear him. He'll just be yelling or singing, something.
Rapping.
Yeah, doing something. Hear him from all the way downstairs.
All right, what other questions you have in this Dadcast, bro?
So I think we talked about how to balance work life. So as we interact with young youth, how has that changed the lessons we want to teach our kids?
Well, that's a question for you since you deal with more youth than we do.
I mean, but I mean, you guys do. I mean, I guess when
Well,
you're,
no,
you're
I
out-
guess I'm referring to when
Well, yeah,
I think
I mean,
youth, I'm
obviously.
thinking of like early 20s retail managers.
Yeah, you know, so yeah, that the biggest one that I see is this is their life. The tablets are their life. They have no idea how to communicate. I was talking to one of my managers today, and it's like, I need you to pick up the phone and call this person, right? You've sent out emails, you've texted, like pick up the phone and call. So it's that ability to actually have a real conversation with someone. You know, the video games, I love video games growing up. The video games is not the problem. The problem with having with the video games is where they took it, where it's all online. So you played with little Timmy across the United States, whereas when, you know, I stayed the night with friends, he was literally right there. And so when he hit a home run on me, I'd punch him, you know, or it's like we're playing Contra and you'd like, stop doing that. You kick him or something. You had the camaraderie, you know. Carl, when we were playing video games at one point, Left 4 Dead was my favorite one, was the zombie one. But then the video games came out to where, I'm playing with so-and-so online. I was like, well, this sucks. This is boring, you know? And so, but bottom line is that is a huge one. The lack of creativity is a huge
Well,
one.
we were talking about the ability to play.
Yeah.
And
the
like
ability
some
to
kids
play.
are watching, I refuse to let my kids, when we give them screen time, you can watch certain things, but the one thing that drives me crazy when they watch, at one point in time, they were watching these videos that were other kids playing, and I know they're fascinated by it, but like we cut that off immediately. Yeah. It's just like, really? That's where you're going to spend your time? Why don't you have those toys, like just go do it. So like we don't even allow that because you were saying that like your nephew or something likes to do
it drives me absolutely crazy. They're eating dinner and they have to have a tablet in their hands.
That's an absolute.
Oh no,
that's an absolute. I mean, our new rule now is unless there's something special going on, but it's like no screen during the week.
You know,
and it's night or day difference. They act like turds when they get even like half an hour of screen time. It's weird. It's like they just act like turds because they want more. They want more, and they don't even know they don't even care what it is. They just want the screen.
Dopamine.
It's crazy. But it's a fine line because at the end of the day, you need to know how to use technology, right? Like you have to.
Using technology and being controlled by technology. You know,
they learned it. They learned YouTube. They're like, "Can I watch YouTube?" I was like, "Where'd you learn about YouTube? You didn't learn that from me." Right? They're like, well, we get to watch YouTube at school because there's a kids YouTube, and I guess they all have tablets at school where they can watch, I guess, 20 minutes of YouTube a day. And I'm just like, what? Like, what is going on? So the other day, they said they wanted to watch YouTube, so I sat down and watched the YouTube. So they were watching a vlogger or whatever, and there's this dude. He's probably 20 years old or 22, and it's like just stupid. He's got 40 million subscribers. You probably, if I said it, you'd probably know who it is or something like that. And like,
you might know.
And I was
Is he out of North Carolina? Who's that guy that's got?
I don't know. No, it's not Mr. Beast. But it's just like it was just a bunch of kids like doing dumb things, like who could stay on the trampoline the longest, and like just dumb things. And I was just like, but I did explain to him. I was like, listen, like, would you want to create a YouTube channel? Right? Because I was like, you can make a ton of money doing that. And I'll tell you what, it also builds up gets rid of the fear of public speaking, and you become very, more personable and ability to talk.
I mean, utilizing it, right, to get better.
Well, that's why I said, do you want to do a YouTube channel? Like, I was like, Griff, we could do a YouTube channel for your wakeboard. He's all about it. But like, because there are some skills that do come from it, but like you have to explain it. If they're just consuming and not understanding that there's a business behind there.
Well, I
like,
think what Carl said is being controlled or not controlled.
Yeah.
Right. That's something that's been resonating.
I mean, and it's hard, I guess, when you're a young parent, like you just don't get it. I trust me, I get it. There's those moments where you want to pull out your hair, but I'm the one hiring your kids, and collectively your kids are not going anywhere because they have no idea how to earn anything. They have no idea how to create. It's just follow directions. And those people, again, society needs those kind of people as well, right? But is that what you really want for your child?
Legos, man. Just keep it old school with them Legos.
They need to know how to think for
kids,
themselves, and it's very frustrating dealing with individuals that have no idea how to think for themselves, have no idea how to figure it out, have no idea how to earn it, think that they deserve everything right now. Like, one of the greatest blessings that I had was growing up with coaches that actually yelled at me. Right? Where is that gone? Right? And where is the discipline gone within the house? Where is the mentality of you have to earn something? That's why chores are so important. Grades are so important. And growing up, my job was to get an A in school. That was my job, and I got rewarded for that. But I also got punished if I had an F, which never happened. But so there's those little things that you're setting your kids up for, because again, they're going to be adults much longer in life, where they are not going to get handed a meal every single night. They're not going to get handed food every single night. Carl growing up.
Well, hey, if we keep going down this route, maybe they will.
With his mom, right? I told him, same thing with Landon. I tell him, it's like, do you want to be at home getting handed gas money to watch your little brother and little sister? Right? What skill set? Right now, there's a 20-year-old who's living in the backseat of his car, who takes a shower at a gym, who will slit your throat for a meal. And you're over here babysitting kids. Who will do
gay for pay for $20.
Right. And it's like the mentality is completely different. It's really different. And that's personally the biggest thing that I've noticed. And it's refreshing when I do meet somebody that is young, that has that mindset, right? It's that work ethic, that understanding, like, hey, I need to earn this. And I need to put forth the effort to actually earn this. I'm busy, but are you being effective? I worked 50 hours, where's my reward? Like, well, what the did you do in the 50 hours? You didn't do shit. You sat on your ass. You did an $800 a day store, and I asked you to do 3 things, and it took you 3 weeks to do it. Like, get the out of here. So it's frustrating. It really is. But again, this is coming from somebody. I have been hiring young people since 1999. Right? So this isn't just me in 5 years ranting.
Well, you've seen a shift.
Well, it's funny how you've
seen a technology shift.
Well, it's funny how also we've had, I think we did a podcast on this, how we changed our pay structure.
Yep.
We went to the gold star system to try to work with the current generation, and that just was a freaking disaster.
Kind of enable it in a sense.
Yeah, it was, and that was a disaster. So now we have more, it's incentive based for do you want to eventually have equity or profit sharing? Well, then the cream will rise.
Well, I think that question, we kind of got a little bit off, I think, but that could lead to another podcast and more of a masculinity podcast. Most of
Manifesto.
Can you manifest your masculinity? Most of everybody that works here are male. We have a lot of females on the Nutrition Corners team. Mm-hmm. But I think what you said in the beginning is that the current scenario of our country, and it spoke about men, and we are in a time where I think a lot of stronger men are being created through a weak time, or people are starting to wake up to that.
Yeah.
And that's something I think we could touch on, and we don't have the time today, but
we also need to do our testosterone.
Maybe that's
podcast.
The same podcast.
Testosterone manifesto.
Testosterone, masculine manifest. Bro, that thing is getting canceled.
We definitely
there's
are.
No reach on that.
Bro, we're definitely smoking cigars in that one.
I'm getting high.
Well, yeah, it's going to up our testosterone.
50 mg.
Apparently. I'm convinced.
Studies are looking good.
I probably smoked more cigars in the last year than ever, and my testosterone's higher than ever. So maybe
I think that's it.
Well, I was reading about testosterone levels over the past umpteen years have plummeted amongst young men.
You know, Carl is definitely going to start smoking. When he reads that study, when you read the study, you're going to start joining us on the cigars.
you're talking
Dude, I'm not too far off, right? I was.
and you're going to see that men's taints have gotten smaller.
I do not want to see that.
What?
But you're
So-
talking like
Why would we
20
see that?
But that's
Why
a
are you
study.
looking at men's taints?
Why are we talking about this?
This is a full study. Like your testosterone, once it dips a little bit more.
Let's
like,
remember the
men's taint
54-minute
gets
mark.
smaller.
You mean the region between your balls and your butthole
Yes.
gets smaller?
That makes
with the
how
lack
did-
of testosterone over time. So like each generation.
So are
it's
they
gotten
measuring
smaller.
taints? Like the
There's a
ABC,
study.
the
I was on that Joe Rogan kick for a minute. There's a study on this. It's crazy.
real?
I
So
tell you,
crazy.
but when you go to
If
the
it's on a
go
Joe
to the
Rogan
gyms,
podcast, I guess it's legit. Huh?
I mean, you go to the gym and you
Yes.
can look around, and you
When
can
you,
also.
when you go to the gym and look around at their taint.
No, I'm just saying we're talking about testosterone, but you look at how these young men are portraying themselves visually, how they lift. It's just weak. It's just.
I love you, Gar. You're the best.
But I mean, I use that as fuel. I'll look over at some dude.
I'm
I've
gonna
talked
slit
about
your
this.
throat, boy.
Oh, I do, and I pick up a dumbbell and I roid it out. I look over. I was like, "Thank you for being a fucking vagina."
I got to take you to an influencer gym in Texas.
Oh my
Dude,
gosh.
no way.
No.
So much fun.
No.
What are those? The broccoli head?
Yeah,
The
broccoli heads.
broccoli heads? It's. I guess the influencer look is now like the curly muff in
Right
the front,
Yeah.
and then and the tripod,
I gotta watch my
tripod and short shorts. What else? Shirt off or
Professional
on?
cameras. They don't have iPhones. They have like
With the
real
fuzzy
professional-
cameras?
Yeah.
which
have,
they
with
for no
mic-
reason?
The mic boom on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the dainty little shorts they're wearing, the dainty little, gay shoes they're wearing. Everything about it just screams, I'm just feminine. It just really does. And it's just a lot about the culture, and it just goes back
I
to
feel
the
like we
bigger
might need
picture.
to edit this part out. 'Cause
Nah.
I hope we
I think
didn't.
this is
If
a
you made it to this
segue.
part,
This is a
just
segue
wait.
into what I think the next one needs to
At
be
the end,
about,
it'll say to
you
be
know?
continued.
Yeah. All right,
be a
guys. Since we went, don't be. All right. Since we went down the taint road. Until next time, guys. Keep crushing it.
We have meetings.